Welcome to the Infill Podcast, where we interview the most interesting members of the 3D printing and maker communities, live and with audience participation. And now, here is your host, Jonathan Levy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another, hopefully great episode. I have no doubt that it is going to be one. I'm excited to have you all here today because our guest is a fellow content creator, YouTube, Twitch, and many other places, and just someone that I've become friendly with in kind of the scenes and the communities. He is, I'm going to get these terms right here, okay? In charge of the Discord channel for Polymaker, one of my absolute favorite filaments, a brand ambassador, and of course my notes won't pop up. So many other things. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Austin Doobie, although I call him Zombie Hedgehog or just Zombie, and I think most people do. Austin, welcome. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing quite well. Yeah, you can call me Zombie. People have been calling me Hedgehog because on my new YouTube channel, I rebranded to Hedgehog Makes, which is kind of interesting because I've just been known as Hedgehog. But you can call me Austin. You can call me Zombie. Those are probably the best two.
Now, what's the story behind the Zombie and the Hedgehog? I guess, what's your story? Because I botched that bio completely. So hit us with the story and your journey. How did you get into this?
So going way back about the Zombie Hedgehog name, because that'll come up. I had a hedgehog when I was very little, and it lived way past its expected life, and then went through periods where it would kind of be like in zombie mode. Also, it poked its own eye out, so it was a one-eyed hedgehog. So it kind of like fit the bill. And I was telling the story one day on one of the games I was playing, and they were like, a zombie hedgehog? That would be a good username. So I quickly logged back in, stole that name, and it's been that ever since.
That is brilliant, and I assume R.I.P. your hedgehog.
Oh yeah, that was a long time ago.
Wow. Okay, so that's pretty funny. That's actually very similar to the story of how Dead Mouse got his name. He literally there was just a dead mouse in his producing computer.
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So Zombie Hedgehog, Dead Mouse. We should do a collab.
You should make a helmet. You should 3D print a helmet. We should get a designer. Someone in the comments right now. We want to design like a Dead Mouse style marshmallow wrapper helmet for Zombie. That would be awesome, and we could print it.
That'd be pretty cool. Yep.
Austin, you're a full-time content creator, part-time content creator. Tell me about that.
So my main job, I am an electrical engineer, and I help build the U.S. power grid. So I do that on a daily basis.
Wow.
And this is my hobby. So this is one of my many hobbies that I've been kind of engulfed in the last year. In fact, I just had my 1-year anniversary of 3D printing.
1 year?
Around this time. 1 year. Yes.
Wow. You have been, first off, just the sheer number of things you've printed in the background. You have been busy. Number one, because you're very involved in the communities, the social media, the everything. Oh, thank you, Modbot.
Thank you, Modbot, for your banana.
The banana, yeah. Modbot is a friend as well. You've been really busy. Okay, so tell me about this journey. This is 1 year not creating content about 3D printing. 1 year since you got into 3D printing. So tell me about that story. You're an electrical engineer by day, and you decide, hey, I'm going to get a 3D printer.
Yes, by night I am the 3D printer, and literally by night I stay up till about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and just stream and 3D print. So back about a year ago, I got an Ender 3v2. It was on like mega sale, and I couldn't pass it up. I didn't know really anything about 3D printing. I knew it existed, and I never got into it because it was another one of those hobbies like photography. You don't get into it because you know that once you get into it, you're going to start buying lenses and cameras and stuff. So I felt like I go down the same path where I didn't need another hobby. But I got it. And oh my God, it was amazing. Like this is something I should have gotten to a long time ago.
Yep.
So I got that printer, and I found Zach Friedman's channel and joined the Voidstar Lab Discord. And they were the ones who helped me pick out all my initial mods, all of the like how to print, getting away from glass build plates and going PEI, like all that stuff. So they were a huge help getting me started.
Wow.
Um,
And so I'm taken aback. In my past life, I taught accelerated learning. So I usually I'm not blown away by how fast people get into things and learn things, but it's actually really remarkable. I mean, you've clearly built quite a few printers. I know you've built a Voron, you've built a Rook. I see a whole bunch of other ones back there. Tell me about the learning journey, right? Is it, I assume, all self-taught. I assume all online communities, right?
mhm.
Um, I assume you don't have kids because you have a lot of time to build printers.
Yeah, just one, but I do this at night.
Yeah.
So this is all done essentially at night and then whenever I can during the day. But mostly it's just during the night and whenever I have free time. I've been doing this almost nonstop for an entire year. I thought at this point I would get burnt out, but I'm
Yep.
still going strong. And it's kind of remarkable because I've gone to other stuff. I've done woodworking. I have a full woodworking shop outside.
No kidding.
I've been doing that a lot longer than 3D printing, but I kind of put it aside because this is something I can do indoors. It's a lot easier
Yep.
in terms of setup. And to me, it's more fun. It's more technical.
See, I agree with you. I really think it's like the perfect hobby.
It's,
For a lot of reasons. I did a whole video about it. The video bombed. I thought it would be a way to get more people into the hobby and share this passion that we have. Um, but the number one, the accessibility, right? The fact that, and by the way, if anyone sees this huge lump on my head, nothing sexy. I hit myself in the face with a cabinet door while I was cleaning up. So, in case you were wondering,
beautiful.
talk about accessible, safe hobbies. The accessibility, right? Of like, I can make something even though it's pouring rain outside. I can make something right now. If I want, I can make, I'm traveling next week. I can fire up my printers remotely, print some stuff, and like feed my hobby. The
Yeah, not only that,
versatility.
but
Yeah.
you can, with a program like Onshape or any like mobile 3D CAD, you can design something on the go and
Right.
take a portable printer with you and print on the go. So
Right.
you have the potential for 3D printing is insane.
Yep.
It's absolutely wild.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and also just the fact, so I'm like you, I burn through hobbies a lot. Like acro yoga for 6 months and then I got sick of it. Like Olympic weightlifting. I could name 50 different hobbies that I've been obsessed with for 6 months. And this one has staying power. First, because there's multiple different rabbit holes you can go down. Like you said, there's the building printers, the designing parts, there's learning about the polymers, there's cosplay. You can go down 50 different rabbit holes and niches, and they don't channel you. So I can be in the cosplay world, but I can also be in the let's build a printer world. But
yeah,
also, each one of those rabbit holes is constantly changing, right? So let's say I'm building printers. Well, Voron 0.2 came out, and that's a whole different beast than the 2.4 that I've built. And so there's so much evolution, so much change that I think for folks like you and I who burn through hobbies, uh, it it
always something new.
it gives you a yeah.
Always.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have aspirations to turn 3D printing into your full-time job, either, working for a manufacturer or as a content creator, or are you one of those, and I know there's a lot, Modbot being one of them, who are like, I really like having a day job to get out of the hobby so it remains still a hobby and a side passion.
I like I said, I do burn through hobbies, and this feels like more than a hobby. It
Mm-hmm.
really does. It feels almost like a lifestyle that I can see myself progressing down. Of course, anytime you make something your main focus, your main business, then you start to lose your passion. It
Yep.
is what it is. But I could see myself working for or being involved with companies or 3D printing, etc. That's definitely a possibility, and I could definitely see myself going down that route. As a content creator, probably not.
Yeah.
I like making content, but I'm not the best at content creation, if
Mm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I hear you. And it's, I was talking about this with Joel 2 weeks ago. The content creation is hard. It's harder than I remember, and I was spoiled because I came from the online course world where it's like, okay, 2 months, I'm going to work really, really hard, create the perfect online course, and then kind of kick back and sell it for a few years and maybe do a webinar here or there, do some interviews. Here, what I love about it, but also what's so challenging about it is every week you got to feed the beast every week, and it's like, okay, great. You had a wonderful
Nonstop.
video last week. That's as good. It's yesterday's newspaper, right? It's useless. Time to move on, time to create more. So, and I love productivity, and I know you're also like a productivity geek, if I recall correctly. So it's part of the
I
fun
try
is
to be.
figuring out like how do you eat this elephant, so to speak. But that's really cool. Now you set up a wonderful segue there, which is in the 1 year that you've been in 3D printing, you've also become very involved with Polymaker, and I've never fully understood your relationship with them. And I'm going somewhere with this. So help me understand,
Okay.
like you're a
All right.
brand ambassador, you're a Discord moderator, but also you're the reason that Polymaker sponsored my Voron 2.4. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Explain.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny because I keep asking myself, like, what is my actual involvement with Polymaker?
Right.
Because so the story is I was in the Void Star Labs Discord and someone said, "Hey, Polymaker made Discord." I'm like, "Oh, this is cool." So I joined. I think probably on the first day, and Nicholas, Nick, he was very different than any other like community. What do you call that? Just like a community representative.
Yeah.
He just felt very different. He was a lot more personable, a lot more approachable, and I kind of fell in love with the community. And then I slowly stayed on the server. I worked to help build it. We went through some different iterations of the server, and then eventually we're at where we are now. But in that time, since I was so active, I asked to be, do you want a moderator? Do you want someone that can help
Mm-hmm.
build the server? Do you want someone that can help moderate your live streams? And it slowly became this thing where I was helping them out.
Yep.
And around the
And
same
he
time,
works for, I mean, he's like a full-time employee at Polymaker.
he is the North America like sales
He's the guy.
person. He's the guy.
He's the guy.
He does way more than he has time for. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. That's
So
cool.
he does just about everything, and it's really cool to kind of be a part of that. So what happened was when I first started printing, I joined MakerDeck, which is a 24/7 maker community on Twitch. And actually, this is one of the shirts that Fixum Dude made. It's an amazing shirt. Go check out their merch. But I joined that, and I slowly started streaming my 3D printer onto MakerDeck. And that gave me kind of the mindset, okay, I've already done a little bit of streaming. Why don't I just stream on my own channel? Why don't I start doing this, start building printers?
Yeah.
So I did that. So I was in the position where not only was I admin and a moderator for Polymaker, but now I slowly became a partner or a representative for like the streaming industry, the content creation industry.
Interesting.
So it's kind of a dual. I do both. I don't think many people do the content creation, but then also the admin work.
Yeah.
Kind of you see the mods in chat, but the mods typically aren't streamers or content creators.
Yeah. Well, I feel better now because it's clear to me why I was so confused. Like you're confused yourself about your role with them. But
Yeah, exactly.
at the same time, you reminded me of a few different people I know, one of whom I ended up employing for years at my last business because he kind of came in and was like, hey, can I help you with this? And I have, funny enough, someone, Vladi, in my Discord who was like, hey, can I help you set up the Discord? And now I'm helping him with all these other industry connections and, trying to help him get a job in the industry. And so that's a proven model, right? Of just like help out where you can help out.
Mm-hmm.
Not that this is like a career path podcast, but help out where you can help out. Do you have a monetary relationship? Do you mind sharing if you have a monetary relationship with Paul?
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I got a wall of filament behind me that they essentially send for testing, for reviewing, to be able to print stuff. So a lot of stuff I print is with filament they send me, but I do not get paid currently.
Cool.
I just do a volunteer role where I get filament, and it's kind of it works out in my end because I'm able to use the filament to create stuff, to create content, which is something that I have to buy, and that's expensive. So it kind of takes the bottleneck off. In
Right.
fact, that's why I really like Polymaker, because their core aspect, their core marketing is allowing makers to get or reduce their limitation. Because there's a lot of people, the limitation is filament. They have a printer, they want to make a project, but they don't have filament.
Right.
And we can find some amazing people in the community to sponsor with filament, to give filament to create these things, and maybe that helps them. Maybe that helps them grow. Maybe it helps Polymaker because they share the model. It has to be with Polymaker.
Right.
But they're kind
Well,
of in that they want to see
yeah,
projects. They want to see cool things.
and there's so many. I mean, the big. Let's just say there's so many Ivan Miranda projects that would never happen if he had to buy 500 kilos of filament to make a freaking go kart. Like
I know. It's
what?
crazy.
um, that's really really cool. And the reason I ask is, not to out you for being, a shill, but because
Mhm.
I posted today on the community tab that I'm considering doing a much deeper integration with Bamboo Lab, and they like Polymaker, and I think this is a real shift that we're seeing in kind of the more forward thinking companies coming out of Asia is like
Mhm.
understanding the deep integration of the marketing, right? You have the people who will email you and be like, "Hey, can we pay you to do a review of our, Ender 3 clone printer?" But then you have on the other end of the spectrum these companies who are like, "No, no, we get it. We want to be a part of the community and we want to fund your projects or your interviews or your content or your event, and we want to do it not as an advertiser, like we want to do it because we're in this community too." And I think Polymaker has led the charge in that regard, just seeing how many people they work with and how many projects they've supported and things like that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
you're talking to me a little about that. I don't see a problem with that. In fact, I want to see more companies become more socially involved, more
Right.
um, just more approachable. A lot of companies, their biggest downfall, from what I can see, is just not engaging with the community. There's
Yes.
a lot of printers that I own where the support is just they're out of touch. It just feels
Right.
like they're out of touch,
Right.
and it's hard to really recommend and work with people that are out of touch.
Yeah.
So,
And I'll tell you a funny story. I feel like every episode I end up interviewing myself a little bit, but it
that's
but it's I think it's relevant. So my first kind of successful business that I grew to like over $1 million. I was 16 years old, and the way we did it was going into forums, because that's where I started. That's where I got the idea for the business. It was upgrading cars, when modifying cars was all the rage, which is shockingly like the 3D printer industry, right? Communities
sure.
talking, sharing mods, uploading. This was before YouTube was a thing, by the way. And there's a chapter written in a book about this like method that we innovated, which we didn't innovate. We just, it was the natural thing to do, right? All these other companies couldn't do what we could do, which is I was every single day, myself and my entire staff, in the forums, in the message boards, in the comments, just engaging with the community, answering questions. And if that meant, hey, actually, our competitor's product is a better fit for you, fine. But the amount of brand equity that we had, like people would call us and consult and, hey, what should I buy? And we would tell them the God's honest truth. So just being a resource to the community is huge. And it's like the flip, not flip side, but the other side that a lot of these companies don't realize is like it's a gold mine, because if you listen, customers will tell you what they want, and
Hmm.
then they'll, if you give it to them, they'll buy it. Like you have the opportunity to have a
Imagine that.
direct relationship with your customers on this like parasocial level, and there are so many companies who are not doing it. So I think
Yeah, I
that's
don't know
very
if they're.
interesting.
I don't know
Mhm.
why. I don't know if they're afraid to. If they just like they don't want to. Maybe they see themselves as more of a professional company where you have to engage in this professionalism
Yeah,
versus being a little more friendly.
I
I don't know
think
what
a
it
lot of
is.
it is language and cultural barrier. I mean, if you look at
Okay, yeah,
like, Prusa, or I don't know, Rat Rig versus, company coming out of China. That's a huge cultural boundary. And I like to think about it of like, how do Western companies go into China? right? They hire local everything, everybody, right? There's like the marketing department of Apple China is probably all local Chinese. And I think the opposite way, it just makes sense as a business case, right? Like Nicholas at Polymaker is a Westerner, Cedric at Bamboo is a Westerner, because as much as we live in a global society, there are still demographics like Russia, right? It's just a different mindset. Marketing is different in Russia than it is in China, than it is in Europe, than it is in the US. And I think you need to hire local talent to understand that. Probably.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's about the same idea that I've always had. You just need to be communication is one of the most important things
Right.
ever. Is being able to communicate stuff, being able to work through problems, to understand each other, and like you said, just different backgrounds puts a restriction on communication.
Yeah. And I think, it was different when German manufacturing was at its heyday because that's similar enough to, you know, but now we're talking about such different cultures. Um, so who knows? But I think it's very interesting, and I think a lot of companies, particularly out of China, are I mean, they're crushing it, right? In my head I call it the DJification of like you have a
Right.
company that is a Chinese company, and yet the local marketing, whether it's in Hebrew or it's in German or it's in English, it's so on point, and the branding is so on point, and even the support experience is so on point. Um, I think it's fascinating. Tell me a little bit, like from your perspective and understanding of Polymaker, because I didn't understand that Polymaker is such a. I mean, it's a polymer sciences company more than anything.
Yeah, yeah, they are. In fact, on the Discord, we have a kind of a small team where we actually can see what they're working on. And I
Cool.
can tell you, they are really focused on the future. That's the
Yep.
best way of putting it. They're focused on developing technologies that don't exist, improving
Yep.
stuff that they could see being improved. So, from what I can see, they're kind of leading a lot of what's going to become the future of 3D printing.
Yep.
And it's really cool to be a part of that because we can have our say. They ask us, hey, what do you think is the best for this and that? And as someone who actually uses the filament, a lot of companies sell stuff but never use their own product. So
Yep.
because they're engaged with their customer base, they're able to make products that will best suit their customer base. And
Isn't that
not
wild?
just because they release a product people like, but because it's something that could be actually beneficial.
Right. And again, it's like it just comes back to like that information is out there, and there are so many companies, not just in 3D printing, like as a whole, who are not leveraging that, not
Mhm.
having those conversations. Austin, you built a lot of printers in your 1 year. Walk me through them because I know obviously you've got the Voron, looks like 2.4 running back there, or maybe
Yeah,
Trident
I got 2.4.
2.4.
Um, mhm.
There's a Rook. I know that I want to talk about that. What else have you built?
So it started with my Ender. I did a lot of upgrades on it and got kind of comfortable with upgrading 3D printers. And then I searched the local used printer market. And oh my God, there is a lot of used printers
Yeah.
and a lot of returns. So I
Yep.
ended up buying a BQ-BX, which
Hmm.
is this like $500 printer. It comes stock with a screen. I completely rebuilt it. I redesigned the entire motion system, made printed parts for it, and then I eventually installed an Rage Rabbit carrot feeder for MMU, and that
Hmm.
was kind of my entry into the custom printer market. And after that, I wanted more,
Hmm.
so I found someone called Rolohan. I found his YouTube channel, and he had the Simple Cube, which eventually got renamed to Simple Core.
Hmm.
That's the big printer you see behind me. This
Oh,
is what
that's a
I've
printer.
been. It's a big printer. It's essentially a 350 size printer
Yep.
that does 330. And that was a really awesome design. It was very simple, very approachable, and I was able to reuse a lot of the components I had from buying discount printers.
Interesting. So your
Yeah.
zombie hedgehog made a zombie printer out of parts of other printers.
Oh yeah, all these printers are very questionable where the parts come from.
You are nothing
They're
if
just
not on brand, I will say that.
yeah,
And
yeah. So I
so
built that
now,
printer.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I built that, and that's what kind of led me down the rabbit hole because I realized that building printers is very easy,
Yeah.
but also can be a little bit expensive. So, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna ask. So you built that, and then what? I mean, how many printers do you have sitting there?
So I got the Rook, MK1, Simple Core, Voron 2.4. I have a couple of King runes, another
Uh-huh.
Rook. Down there is a Kaiwu. That was another like weird discount printer.
Yeah.
Under 3B2s on the floor, and then BQPX. I
And
think
it looks
that's
like
the
you're in a
main.
relatively small room. I think we share the same affliction of more printers than space.
Hmm. I'm
Yeah.
building Rolo Han's new Rook Evolution printer, which is a really interesting design. He has that available on his Patreon, but it's going to be a neat printer. And I'm also working on. I could just talk about what I'm gonna be doing for the
Yeah.
next year.
Oh,
Too
I'm
much
sure.
stuff, a lot of printers.
And is that, I mean, does that make sense on your channels to build those printers? Because for me, my Voron build was a lot of fun. Content wise, in terms of hours input to making 2 videos, it was not the best use of my
No,
time. Um,
no.
is it different for
It,
you? Because you're building them
it's
on
the journey.
streams.
It's the journey of how you get there. So it's good to see the final product, but a
Hmm.
lot of the cases, I don't care about the final product. I want to see what goes into making that
Right,
product, the limitations,
right,
and as you go. Something I love doing is when I stream, I can answer questions. I
right,
can talk with the chat. So it's all about creating this, again, back where we're saying a personable experience, kind of engaging with the community instead of making a video that's really just showing what you have.
right,
So that's great
right,
and all, but I love streaming because I can talk to Pezlas in chat and say, "Hey, how's it going?"
right. And yeah, and so I guess what you're saying is if you build it on stream, that becomes content that people want to watch. Whereas if
And
you
it's not
present
just the
it
build.
fully built, well, it
Yeah,
doesn't
like
work on
take
the YouTube end.
Nero, for example, or Modbot, right?
Right,
It's not about the build, it's about engaging with the creator. And
right.
that's what's fun. It's about asking those questions and the tangents. It's never about the main topic. It's always about the tangents and what you can go off on and talk about.
Mm. I think it's just, and I try to understand this because I've really become a student of the medium of YouTube and Twitch and all that, and I want to learn. And it's just such a different it, it's as different as like watching ESPN versus watching a binge-worthy drama on Netflix. Like live streaming is just a totally different animal with different rules, and people want different things, I
Yes.
think, than
Yeah,
your
it's very
CNC
different.
kitchens. That's so interesting, and I'm
So
trying to get my head around it.
in terms of my workflow, I mean, I've been seriously trying to make YouTube videos for months now where I take a topic, I make a script, and I write stuff, but it's not my style.
Yeah,
I like to talk about stuff as I go. I like to get the feedback directly from the audience. So
right,
imagine doing your tests and then being like, huh, this doesn't really make sense. What do you guys think? We can have a
right,
conversation about the process as you're doing it. And to me, that's a lot more valuable than making a end video. The downside is people have very short attention spans.
right,
So unless you're watching the content live, I feel like people are less likely to watch it after because it's
right,
going to be 4 hours long.
right. Yeah, and I definitely experienced that myself. I'm like, oh, Austin did a stream. I like Austin, but I also like my 4 hours. Whereas if it's live, I am at the disadvantage where like I'm recording B-roll in the middle of the day, right? But you're all asleep in the middle of my day. Like I would pop on a live stream while I'm recording B-roll and can afford to have noise, but I think there's not as much happening live, in my prime hours. Tell me about the Rook. First, we should definitely say hello to Zachary because it's his birthday. So hello to Zachary.
Oh,
And
Zach,
then
happy birthday.
yeah, and then Canrog87 says I should build a Rook. So tell us about the Rook. And for those watching on video, I'm gonna go back to you so people can see this gorgeous green Rook that you built.
this is kind of where the Rook is at right now.
Hmm.
Still not finished.
Right.
It's still evolving. It's still a kind of a good work in progress. But I built this on a live stream on YouTube. In fact, this is my like most viewed video,
Hmm.
and I did this in about 4 hours without the
No
cable
way.
management. hmm
Holy
It's a
crap.
very simple build. So a little bit of backstory on the Rook.
Yeah.
Uh, oh boy, do I still have it?
And
Let's
for
see.
those who are not watching the stream, I mean, it's a Core XY
It's weird.
printer, very solid build. It's a cube, impressive looking. I can't believe you built that in 4 hours. That's remarkable.
Yeah, I was gonna pull out my original Rook, but it is MIA. What the heck did I put out? Whatever. So I built the original Rook. It's a
Hmm.
very different design.
Right.
Like it's just completely different, but it shares the same concept. And I had serial number one. I
Wow.
built it. Someone called Gulsifer actually modded the frame for me. So instead of using 8 millimeter rods, I used 10 millimeter rods,
Hmm.
for example. And that's kind of, I feel, what kickstarted the whole kind of Rook evolution.
Hmm.
Not evolution, but revolution, where
Hmm.
people are like, huh, this doesn't look that bad, and it's easy to build. So we revised the model. We ended up with this style up here, which is a dual lead screw
Hmm.
version that only has two bearings in the back. And then that eventually got redesigned into this. This is the Rook MK1 or Mark 1,
Right.
which is a 120 printer. Stock is around 110 by 110 by around 110 build volume. So
Yep.
it's around the same size of a Prusa or a V0, a little smaller in
Yep.
terms of build volume.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, what's the differentiating selling point? That it's a fast and easy build? Because I know they're not insanely fast for Core XY, right?
Actually, so they can go pretty fast. It's not a bad design. The
Okay.
fact that it's a PLA frame on the top,
Right.
it's quite rigid because
Right.
PLA is a rigid material. This is not made out of ABS. This is made out of PLA.
The entire frame is PLA.
Yeah, so the entire printed part is PLA. The only metal part is these rods, and I
Wow.
actually braced them with my own design side panels.
Wow. That's really cool. What
Yeah,
does it
and
cost
it
to build one
works.
of them? I, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the stock BOM, if you go for the cheapest possible components, around 260 or so. There's
Wow.
going to be different kits coming out targeting around the $300 point.
Hmm.
So Fabrico has a kit in the US. West 3D is working on a configurator for it, but you can
Cool.
self-source these components. Or best, you have a printer that you don't use, or you
Yep.
buy a used printer, you salvage most of the components from it, and you
Really?
can build one of these just
Huh.
buying what
So
you need.
it's using kind of standard like NEMA 17s and
Yeah, very standard. You don't have to follow a specific, okay, it has to fit within this area. If you want to mod this, you
yeah.
can make anything. It's completely adaptable, and the community behind it is all very modding centric. This is not, most components on here are not even the stock BOM of, or at least the STL list. So this entire motion system was redesigned by Gulsifer, including this rookery tool head.
Yep.
So this is not stock having a tool head with fans on it. It had a rear blower fan,
Hmm.
and the bed is improved by Kenrog, who's in chat. So he designed the bed. He
Cool.
also has a different base for it. So the community is very involved in
Yeah.
making improvements to the printer.
More so than say Voron, which really is it's kind of like Bitcoin. Like anyone can develop for the Voron, but really only a very select few people, get their
Right.
stuff
It's only
merged into.
only the official stuff's going to take off.
Right.
Where with Rook, you can kind of pick your own path. And if you want a specific thing, if you have specific components that you want to try to incorporate, chances are someone's made it or it's easily makeable.
That's very cool. Now, we segued nicely into printers that you have. You're getting a Bamboo pretty soon, but you don't have it yet, which is why I want to ask you, what is, of all these printers, if you just need something to work first time, what's your go-to printer?
My go-to printer has, okay, I have two, and one of them's going to surprise you. But the Simple Core,
Yep.
this has definitely been my go-to because of how much time I put in making it as reliable as possible. That was my main focus, and that's actually Rolohan's main philosophy, is making cheap, reliable printers
Right.
without focusing on speed. And when you do that, you make some very interesting designs. You cut stuff out that's really not needed. For example, this printer, these linear raw, the linear rails are not supported. They just kind of attach on two ends. So there's no bar behind them for the
Mm-hmm.
z-axis. And it
Mm-hmm.
works. It works great, actually. The print quality in this printer is beyond most of my other printers,
Huh.
including my untuned 2.4.
Yeah. Yeah, the Voron is one of those cases. And this is an intentional segue into talking about Prusa coming out yesterday with the MK4. But the Prusa or the Voron, when you build it, makes you realize that there is a lot of value to pre-tuned profiles on something like a Prusa
Yeah.
or a Bamboo, where it's like when someone else has put in that. I mean, little things, right? Like I've learned so much about 3D printing as a whole by just like realizing all the things that I needed to fix in my Voron profile. Like, oh, it
So
doesn't like
my
wiping. Mine at least doesn't
my
like wiping. you know.
the the printer that will surprise you, and again on
Oh
this
yeah.
topic, the Kaiwu.
Okay.
The Kaiwu. You probably never heard of it. It's this random printer brand that had a sale, and it's not a bad machine. It's not the best, but it's not a bad machine. And the reason why it's reliable is, guess what? I didn't mod it. It's
Right.
stock.
Right. And
So
there's something
because
to
I'm
be said
using
about
the
that.
stock everything, it just works. The second
Right.
you start putting in all kinds of mods, like all my king runes, it's no longer reliable.
Right. And that was my exact experience with the Bamboo as well. Like, don't think it was really worth it in retrospect to tinker with it and mess stuff up. And it's still kind of it's got some rattles and this kind of stuff. Um, Prusa yesterday announcing the Mark IV. You said you did a 3-hour stream on it. You don't have any Prusa printers?
No, no. Because
What's your take then as an unbiased,
okay,
you've built a lot of printers. You don't particularly have any loyalty or biases to any one company. So what's your take? Not 3-hour format though.
okay. The short take is that Prusa as a company is doing something a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
They're not focusing on just pushing out printers. They're
Right.
focusing more on the reliability, the customer support, and the ecosystem around their printer.
Right.
And that's something I don't think any other company really has, including Bamboo.
Right.
They don't have the history. They don't
Mm-hmm.
even have really the customer support because of how many people are buying versus their size of their company. So Bamboo's still in a growing phase. I'm excited to see what they can do. I
Yep.
really am. But right now, Prusa they have the production and the track history uh, to kind of make their products stick out.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I want to do a whole video about this. Let me know in the comments, guys, if you want to see a whole video about this because I'm not going to talk for 12 minutes straight here about this. I ordered an MK4 upgrade kit, um,
An upgrade
and
kit.
yeah, because I don't know what I'm going to do with this Mark III if I don't upgrade it. So it was
We'll talk
like,
about that.
yeah, and today I realized I was like, if I'm replacing 90% of the parts, I might as well have just had two printers and spent, I don't know, 100 or $200 more. But whatever, fine. For me, it's more about space than anything. And that content I think is more interesting. And as content creators, we're always, I'm thinking to myself, well, I could spend a little bit more and review the thing, or I could spend a little bit less. Fine, whatever. But I think that's more interesting content. Like, should you upgrade your
Sure,
Mark
for
III? There's
content.
300, yeah, there's
Okay, yep, I
350,000
can
Mark
see it.
IIIs out there. I'll tell you what, I'm a little disappointed that it's not Core XY. Yes, but that's not this product. And uh, Joe himself said, like, before people get their pitchforks out, there are
I like that.
350,000 printers out there that I can't abandon because I've guaranteed they'll always have an upgrade path. I think, and by the way, as an upgrade path for a bed slinger, I think it's going to be the state of the art for the bed slingers. It's going to be the best bed slinger out there. I have no doubt. It's expensive, but I get that because you're getting the profiles, 1 million hours of testing, 24/7 customer support, no hassle returns. Those are all things that Bamboo can't do and won't do. Anchor can't do, won't do. Snapmaker can't do, won't do. So it's,
Yep.
I have a lot of car metaphors because of my past life, but you get a different experience with a Mercedes versus a Toyota. It just is what it is, and I'm not calling Bamboo a Toyota. Maybe they're more like a, I don't know, Genesis or something like that. Like it's still a premium product, but no one's giving the experience of Mercedes in terms of customer service, in terms of like white glove, just hand us the keys and you're on your way. And Prusa is giving that experience because it's what they can do that I don't think, as you said, anyone else can do. And I think we have the XL. There's a Core XY desktop printer coming. And that's gonna. They're not a stranger to having a product at every market segment. They've done it very nicely now, with AFS at the very top, and they would be foolish not to say, "Okay, great, we honored our agreement. Your printer is upgradable." And the way Joe said it was so brilliant. He goes, there's 350,000 people that I couldn't leave out there. And with this one upgrade kit, I'm able to make their printers, keep up with the pack. Or I don't remember what he said exactly, but, I'm going to give their printer another 5 years worth of life. It's going to be, basically keep up with the Joneses for another 5 years.
Yeah, so what they did was exactly what they needed to do. This was the only move they could have done is, going back to, let's say, Solval, right? So Solval released what is essentially an MK3 frame printer.
Right.
You throw Clipper on it, and now suddenly that is it's a better printer than a Prusa in terms of print quality, in terms of speed, etc.
Right.
In fact, I'll be getting in the Solval SV06 Plus, and during my unboxing, I'll be putting Clipper on it.
Yeah.
So it's barely going to see Marlin.
And how long until Solval ships a printer with Clipper? And
That's a good question.
Uh,
Kingrun just launched, or I don't know, they teased something, and it sounds like they're going down that train now.
Yeah. I can't say anything more on this because I know the answers to some of these questions, but I can transition to thanking this video's sponsor, which, as always, I forgot to do. And so I'll do that really quickly. And this video's sponsor is PCBWay, who, as you all know, does a lot to support the 3D printing community, including but not limited to allowing you to make awesome custom PCBs for as little as $10, with a $5 welcome bonus if you order online with our link, which we will put in the description below. But they do a whole lot more. PCBWay also does commercial 3D printing, CNC machining, sheet metal fabrication, injection molding, SLA, metal 3D printing, really anything that you could want to do to level your project up. They are awesome. They have great community and great customer service. So make sure to check out PCBWay. And thank you to PCBWay for making this channel and episode possible. All right, we're back.
Thank you.
We're back. And this time I didn't forget to unmute my microphone. So that's a plus. But, we're seeing, right, BQ shipped a Clipper printer. And we also have seen Clipper from FL Sun. It's only a matter of time until Solval ships a Clipper SVO something. And then it's gonna re-spark, I'm already saying it now. It's probably, just knowing how quick they went from SVO6 to SVO6 Plus, it's gonna happen faster than most people are gonna get their upgrade kit, potentially, for the Mark III. And definitely before they clear the back order and backlog that they developed yesterday on the Mark IV. So that's gonna be a really interesting comparison video that I promise you I will do.
Mm-hmm. My thought on the Prusa with input shaping as a whole is that for most people, you have to consider the general audience, the people that have these Prusas. Just running input shaper and just having a higher flow hot end is going to be all they will ever need.
Right.
So if a Prusa Mark IV is all of the printer, all the capacity they'll ever need, do you need anything better? or can you stick with that platform, even though
Yeah,
it's a bed slinger?
I'll add though and I think you agree. You just maybe omitted they needed the touch screen experience. Like, come on, with the touch knob for most consumers,
I
right?
don't
If
have
you're
any screen from any printers.
you will soon, and you'll see if you put on your
It's
I'm a
useful.
beginner lens, right? And I'm a
Yeah.
beginner who's used to using products like my Stream Deck or my iPhone, or it's like, you know, even a lot of dishwashers now have a touch screen. So that was a must, and then the online access, right? Like the Pi Zero thing on the Mark III was a disaster.
Yeah,
No
it's
one did
kind of
it.
kind of weird.
No one. I've never met a single person who actually did it because it's just too limited. Whereas now they're gonna have a proper Prusa Connect web dashboard. You can use the printer online, offline. Um, so I think they had to do that. And now, as you said, they have an offer that for most people is going to work. But I saw an interesting video today, which kind of convinced me as well, which is Prusa has realized that the reliability of their product has made them perfect for farms. And
Hmm.
so maybe they're gearing themselves more towards farms. And if you're buying one printer, maybe the Bamboo is a better product for you because it, looks nicer on your shelf and is it fully enclosed and whatever, and you don't have to build it. And maybe Prusa doesn't care as much about that because they know that by tailoring it towards being a tank, being open, that you can work on it easier by making sure that all the parts are open source so you never have fear of downtime. They can sell the 10 or 20 or 100 printers. And I think that's interesting as well, but then why would they have AFS if that was the case? So,
Yeah, I think print farming and solutions for that is going to be kind of the key for a lot of startups and a lot of businesses having the best management and the best experience with that. And Prusa, I mean, they've nailed exactly what they need to, in my opinion. Like they
mhm,
understand their audience, and it's kind of funny because I think you might have commented on this, but they had a poll on their website,
right.
printables, where what do you want in this printer? They knew exactly what was going to the printer. They knew that before they released the poll,
Yeah,
um, but they just wanted to see what people thought,
right.
and it's interesting seeing what people wanted in the printer because it kind of falls into what more the most people want versus what the select few want.
Yeah, and that, by the way, is a age-old marketing trick, which is as soon as you answer that survey, you are invested
Yeah,
psychologically,
it's
because
like a promotion, huh?
even though you had zero input in the product actually being developed, you feel, the IKEA effect, right? You feel like this is the printer that I contributed my opinion to.
Hmm.
So, huh. Practical Printing says no one has said that the MK4 and XL don't have a touchscreen. And I said they do have a touchscreen. And he said, all I can say is they don't not have a touchscreen, NDAs and all that. I'm not
I don't know. He's one of the beta testers. I think
right. But
he's a bit of a troll.
maybe he doesn't realize
Quite
that
crusty.
it was published yesterday that they do have a touchscreen.
Yes, has touchscreen. In fact, I went over the
Okay.
entire specs for the printer. It's really cool because you can customize it. You can actually customize your own screen without having to recompile Marlin.
Oh,
Yay!
that's cool. That is really cool. Um,
Yeah,
I'm interested why they decided. I guess it's just loyalty, right? Because Marlin's input shaping is inferior to Clipper, from what I've seen. I haven't actually tried it,
yeah.
but
I tried it. I ran into some issues. It's not ready, in my opinion.
so I'm wondering. I mean, I think part of it comes down to the blog post that Joe did, which is like, contributing to open source. Though Clipper is also open source, but I think Prusa sees themselves as the flag bearer for a lot of the stuff that they've taken under. Like they're the flag bearer for Slick 3R now, right? And they have 21 people developing software and contributing it back. So I think it's just they don't want to
It's really
abandon
good.
Marlin, and they'd rather bring Marlin up to spec with Clipper,
And
which
so something
fine.
interesting about that. So their fork of Marlin, I think they said pretty much everything has changed. So
Yeah.
I don't think you can really call it Marlin at this point. They they wrote their entire custom firmware, but
Yeah.
they still based it off of Marlin. So
Yeah.
it'll be very interesting to see what comes from that because it's all open source.
Right.
So will other companies utilize their input shaping?
Right.
That I don't see a reason why we won't see every single printer of decent speed have
Right.
input shaping. There's no reason not to if it works.
Oh yeah, 100%. The question is, do you do it? I sense that part of the reason is, I mean, let's face it, Clipper is amazing, right? But it needs actually a powerful processor, right? It's not running on a 32-bit buddy board. It's running on a Raspberry Pi, which most people don't realize. Like, I run an entire Bitcoin and Lightning node routing millions of payments on a Raspberry Pi. They're actually very, very capable processors. And that may be part of it. Is number one, that's wasteful, right? In an era of chip shortages, to run a 3D printer off of a computer, a full on computer, is wasteful. You
Yeah,
could run four of them, but if you're shipping your
that's
printer with the processor, it's wasteful, and it's
that's why
expensive.
like Big Tree Tech Solution with their
Yep.
Manta boards,
Yep.
they specifically built a single board computer that's not crazy powerful. That's
Right.
kind of like the minimum they could possibly put on this thing, but still adequately runs Clipper.
Right. Right. And I'm seeing Cybor is now shipping their zero point 0.2 Voron kit with their own board. It's kind of like an orange pie, right? But it's a board that they developed. I think that's the way to
Yeah,
go, right?
sure.
Because the chip shortage is everywhere, but it gets alleviated by having lower and lower fabs producing chips that you don't need a supercomputer to run your 3D printer or your Bitcoin node. Oh, Practical Printing has an answer here. Marlin's input shaping doesn't use an accelerometer like Clipper does. Prusa's implementation uses the sensors built into the head, so it's a hybrid, for lack of a better word. Thank you for sharing that, Practical Printing.
I'll
Um,
be very interested in seeing everything about the Prusa, how they developed, why they developed it. There's just so much information that's gonna again lead the next generation of 3D printing and what companies. Okay, this is what Prusa did. This is kind of the reaction in the audience. This is what we need to do. So
yeah,
I'm glad they did it. It's really what they needed to do, and it's good to see the general direction that 3D printing is going in.
I agree, and I said all along, I was critical because I cared, and I'm the first person to say it's actually for a bed slinger, which again we've covered. They had to make a bed slinger. I'm really excited. I mean, I put my money behind it, and not just for content. Like, I'm excited about it. I think it's really cool. I think it's going to be the last relevant bed slinger for a while, except maybe a Clipper SV06 kind of thing. I think bed slingers are on their way out, but I just know
They still have their place. Prusa
they
has the best
do.
implementation where
Right,
they remove the issues with beds. It's a rigid mounted bed on a
right,
rigid and linear motion system. So there's no
right,
play in the bed. So they're
right,
able to push it with faster speeds, better
right.
quality, etc. And their bed design is amazing with magnets built in. There's
Yep.
nothing else like it.
Yeah, but it's still that the laws of physics don't change. The more
Yeah,
mass you're moving, the more it's going to affect your print. And I
yeah.
think, look, Core XY was really expensive up until very recently. It was harder and people hadn't figured it out. And now that's changing. And so I think everyone, I don't know this for a fact, but Sovel's developing a Core XY printer. Creality is developing, I'm sure, 15 different Core XY printers.
Everyone, you're gonna say
Everyone is
everyone is.
developing a Core XY
Yeah.
printer, and that's the way things are going. And I think for consumers, it's ultimately going to be better because it's compact, it fits. So yeah, I want to encourage people to ask questions. Is cool asked a question, which is how much is that board that you mentioned before?
Oh, which one? The Manta?
I think the Manta. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Manta, the whole package is around, I think around like 80 to 100 US dollars with the controller board, the drivers, and the single board computer that goes
Wow,
on it.
that's really great.
So
And
it's not cheap, but if you factor in not having to buy a Pi or even like a laptop,
there you go.
Rolohon has a great guide on installing a Clipper on a laptop because who doesn't have a spare laptop around? I know I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's nice. It's a nice integrated solution. It really
Yeah.
is.
And Matrix Ray, thank you for the correction here. Cybor is using Mello's Gemini board, which has a built-in Orange Pi clone.
Okay.
So yeah, but I'm super happy to see this because Raspberry Pis are for education and other uses that are, let's face it, like more noble than 3D printing. Like there are entire foundations and entire nonprofits that rely on the ability to put affordable computers in people's hands, and that's more important than me running another 3D printer. And I've got like three of them. I've got one, two, three just running 3D printers, which is silly. Um, so I need to do something about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, Very cool. Uh, what have you printed recently? I like to ask that.
Yeah, I'll go. I print a lot of things, but one
Yeah.
of the coolest things is 3D printing's mushroom container.
Wow, that's
This was
cool.
printed on the Simple Core. It actually ended up being very, very good quality.
And that's with
And
a
here's a video.
enraged rabbit carrot feeder.
No, these are all separate pieces that you glue together.
Okay. Okay.
So it's a 4-color print with 4 different materials printed separately, and it glues together.
Uh-huh.
And the way that it screws in is just so good. He does a
Love
great
that.
job with all of his mechanical designs.
I love that.
It's a fun one.
That's
Actually, the
awesome.
last thing I printed, I just did this.
Wow.
This is Polymaker's lightweight PLA, and I
Wow.
want to test out one of the gliders.
It's a massive
So
glider for those watching that are listening to the audio.
I scaled it up a bit because I could, but
A little bit.
yeah, I'll be interested to see if that flies.
Yeah, let me know.
Mm,
I want to print that for sure for my son. I printed, let's see, I printed this, which I'm sure everyone knows. It's the Hydra AMS. Um,
nice.
I'm going to convert one AMS and then I'm going to get another and keep it stock, I think. And I'm working on, I feel like I've become I just print what everyone else is printing. So I'm going to show these gears, which are for the filament spool or the respooler that everyone is printing. And then this is a great
Ah,
one. Do you
that's a
you have
conversation.
C stands in your studio, like light grip stands, C
No,
grips?
no.
Okay, so I do. They're everywhere, and they can get to a point you have to tighten them, otherwise a 5 kilo light falls in your head. And heat, cool, whatever, all that. Some days you're stronger than others. They can get to a point where you can't open them, like they're so tight, and they hurt your hands a lot because they're metal. And I was like, if I just had a wrench, like a wrench that was big enough, because the handles are huge, like a spanner. And I was like, I
Okay,
have a 3D printer, so I modeled a spanner, like kind of. It's not, because of the shape. This fits
okay.
perfectly around the C grip handle, and it's got a 25 centimeter handle. Principle of leverage. So now I can take these C grips that are so tight I can't open them, just tick, and they work. And it's just in basic PLA. In this case, I used Voxel PLA Pro. Uh, I was gonna print it in carbon fiber nylon, and then I was like, I really don't think I need it.
Oh God, no. Most stuff, PLA is one of the best engineering materials for most
Exactly.
applications.
And that blew my mind. I mean, it has a little bit of dents from opening stuff, but it's strong, it's rigid. And we're talking like, I consider myself reasonably strong, and my hands even more so. I couldn't even get it to budge with two hands like this, like hamming on it. This thing just dick. So that
Awesome.
that was a cool print. That came off the Voron 2.4 and used 200 plus grams. It's got some heft to it, but really
Yeah, it's
fun.
not bad.
Yeah, really, really
I
fun.
mean, I just print a
Awesome.
lot of stuff, and
Oh,
if you're looking for stuff to print, MakerDeck again. There's
Maker
always
Deck.
people printing on MakerDeck. You go there and you kind of see what people are printing,
Love
and
that.
kind of do the same thing. You see
On my
something fun,
Patreon, I did
you print it.
I used to have a Prince of the Week, and I'm behind like 6 weeks or something. Because I'm printing all the same stuff as everyone else. But Austin,
Yeah,
I really want to thank you for your time. But I
yeah. Thank
first
you.
want to ask you to give us your links. Where can people reach out to you? And also, I have the best community in the world in 3D printing. I know people have bigger audiences, but mine is the best. So how can we support you? And you'll be shocked at how amazing my community is in supporting you. What can we do to help you?
So I live stream regularly around 10 o'clock Eastern time on
Hmm.
Twitch, on
Hmm.
twitch.tv/zombie hedgehog.
Hmm.
I'm on YouTube as Hedgehog Makes.
Hmm.
If you type that in, you get pictures of hedgehogs. Keep scrolling. And also make sure to join the Polymaker Discord. I
Yep.
do run that, or at least co-run that with Polymaker. It's a great place to find resources for 3D printing in general, not just Polymaker. That's discord.polymaker.com. And also check out MakerDeck on Twitch. It's a
All
fun
right.
community where you can get involved.
And we will put links to all of that in the description wherever you are watching this. Make sure to like and subscribe and share and do all the things because it really does make a difference. Austin, I can't call you Austin. Zombie, thanks for coming in and sharing your wisdom and your time and your passion with us. I really enjoyed it.
All right, thank you.
All right, my friend. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infill Podcast. For show notes or links to anything mentioned in today's episode, visit thenextlayer.com. If you enjoyed the episode, please don't forget to leave us a review wherever you're listening, or click the like button to let us know. And consider subscribing to The Next Layer on YouTube so you can tune in live and participate in the next conversation. We'll see you on The Next Layer.